Hey everyone, it's Julianne Meyer, your host of Own Your Wellness. Happy Thursday, everyone. I have to make a quick, admission that I really didn't even remember it was Thursday until just now. That's what happens when you don't work a regular 9 to 5, I suppose. Anyway, I do have a special guest today. Her name is Dr. DeAnna Jordan Crosby, and you actually might have seen her on TV before. She's on the Dr. Phil show quite regularly. And you can read her work. I mean, she's just all over the place. Anyway, she's an amazing lady, and I'm just going to bring her on. Hello, DeAnna.
Hi, Julianne. I was just thinking, I loved your intro so much. And then I thought, oh my God, I love her intro for me.
What fun. Yay. I'm so glad you could make it today. A lot of people don't know that I've actually had the opportunity to interview you before for my private practice. So I just, thank you for coming back. We had a great time last time.
It was fun.
It goes so fast. It's kind of crazy.
It really does. And, I could talk to you for hours, so that makes it easier.
Hey, why not? So why don't we start out with some questions? Well, you know that I would not everybody is familiar with who you are. So if you wouldn't mind sharing a little bit about who you are and your wellness journey.
Okay, so my name's DeAnna, and I just go by DeAnna. And I got into health and wellness about 31 years ago when I decided to quit drinking. I was also participating in some recreational substances, and I thought it was just like an easy way of life. Mm-hmm. But I decided to give it all up and see what was really going on inside of me. And I went on a journey to explore a lot of things that I didn't know I was actually inside of me. And a friend of mine opened a treatment center for women in Costa Mesa, and she asked me if I would come teach classes. And I thought I was just going to do it as a favor. And I said, oh my gosh, of course I'll teach classes. And then she said, well, I'm going to pay you. And I was like, you're going to pay me? Oh, even better. And then when I was there teaching classes, somebody said, you should get certified as a drug and alcohol counselor. You're really good at working with addicts. And I said, okay. So I went and got a certification. And then somebody else said, when I was getting my certification, one of the professors said to me, you should get a master's degree in marriage and family therapy. You're really good at counseling people. And I went, okay. So I went and got a master's degree from Pacifica Graduate Institute in Santa Barbara. And then when I was doing my graduate work, somebody said, you should get a doctoral degree. And I said, okay. And I didn't really know what I was in for, but I did it anyway. And I don't know if I would do it again because it was really such a journey. But I'm really grateful that I did it and that it's over.
That's impressive because obviously I know a bit about you, and you're married, you find time for your husband as well as your kids, and tons of people in your life as well. So, it must have been especially hard when you're trying to add that into the mix.
I do this thing I call healthy compartmentalization, because when I was in grad school, I was married, I have 4 children. I mentor about 18 women that I speak to probably pretty regularly. And I work obviously full time. So it was just so surreal to do all those things in one life, but I had to just totally stay in the moment. So mindfulness really helped me a lot. I just thought, when I'm at work, I'm not going to do anything else but be at work. And people will say to me, when is my session with you? I'm like, I don't know. I don't have a calendar in front of me. I can only think about what's in front of me. So I just got really mindful, and I just started focusing on what was directly in front of me. Like today, I was doing one thing, and then I went, oh, okay, now it's time to get ready for Julianne's show. And then after that, I'll look at my calendar and it'll say dinner. And I'll say, okay, now it's time to make dinner. And then I'll look at my calendar and it'll say veg out on Netflix. And my calendar is really organized. I think I told you this before, but I have everything in color coordinated. So when I was in school, my school on my iCal, my school was in what color was school? In purple. Work is in green. My spiritual practice is in orange. My family time is in a brown, and then my personal time is in blue. So I put everything in my calendar color coordinated, and then I take a step back and look at my calendar, and if any color is way bigger than the others, I know that something's out of balance. Like if it's all green, that means all I'm doing is working, and my spiritual life, my family life, my personal time, those things aren't getting met. So in order to stay balanced, the colors have to be very colorful, like a rainbow in my calendar.
I love that. That's such a good way to notice if your life is in harmony or not.
Really simply broken down. You know what I mean? I needed, like when I was in grad school, I'd say, tell me exactly what to do and I'll do it. And they'd say, okay, write this. And I'd say, okay, and I'd write it and go, now what do I do? And they'd say, write a paper and then write a dissertation and do this. And I just have to, I'm a simple person. I need everything broken down. And when my calendar is broken down through color, it just clicks in my brain better.
I love that. And, you know, obviously you're familiar with the term future tripping.
Yes.
So I love it because it's a fun way to remind you to stay present. So, you know, I just love that because it's less overwhelming, because if you're so worried about what's next, you're not even giving 100% to what you're doing in that moment. So I'm glad that you brought that up.
There's this test called the EPPP, and it's what psychologists take when they graduate. And I was in class like my second year in grad school, and somebody said, well, we should learn this for the EPPP. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's so far away from right now. I'm not even going to think about the EPPP until I'm done with school, and then I'll move on to the next thing because I'm so in the moment. Like future tripping is my enemy, I believe.
It is for a lot of people. I mean, I think most people, but yeah, I think that you definitely have a better handle on that. So thank you for, you know, giving some ideas too, because you know, I've mentioned this before on the show, but a lot of people think that scheduling like gets rid of your freedom. But I always believe that it actually gives you freedom. I mean, you don't have to be, you know, 100% slave to it because things do change, but
it's flexible.
Yeah.
But my favorite saying is discipline is my friend.
I don't think I've heard that one.
We think discipline is a negative connotation. Like you don't want to be disciplined. You just want to live your life free and happy. I'm not a free and happy kind of girl, because when I live free and happy, I'm not happy, and I'm on the sofa under a blanket watching Netflix for 12 straight hours. That's me left to my own devices. That's how I will inherently behave. But if I have a schedule that says walk on the treadmill and then do some spiritual practice and then do this, and I follow the schedule, then I check out on Netflix like after my day is done, I just feel so much better about myself. So discipline is my friend.
No, I love that. And, you know, there's something that you've mentioned a few times that I really want to highlight is that you have a spiritual practice. So here you are. A lot of people would sit there and say, I'm too busy, or I don't have time for that. But you make it a part of your daily, I'm assuming daily, your schedule, you know, you make it a part of your life. And that's another bonus of planning your time. You actually get to do everything that you think you want to make time for.
Well, I think if I say I'm too busy, like I just recently did an interview for the law review board, and they were saying like it was about alcoholism and attorneys and what a high rate of alcoholism they have in the field. And one of the things they were talking about was, I said, don't wait until you're done with law school to enjoy your life. Like I'm too busy right now with law school. I can't enjoy my life. I'll wait till I'm done, because that's not going to change.
No.
You're not going to wake up one day, you're going to go to a busier job, and you're going to be more, and you're never going to do it. And like, I was talking to one of my clients yesterday, and she said, I'm not going to go to the beach until I lose 20 pounds. And I said, what if you never lose that pounds and you're 80 years old and you say, I never went to the beach? That would be so sad. So I don't believe in that at all. I believe in like seizing the moment no matter what, and not, my spiritual practice, I have to make time for it, because if I'm not taking care of myself wholly, I'm no good to my wife, my work, you, the people I mentor. I mean, I'm no good to anybody if I'm not taking care of DeAnna first. It's like, put on your oxygen mask first,
Exactly. And that's so important, especially women, I notice too, and mothers, tend to want to take care of everybody else first. And then they'll make time for themselves. But, like you said, oxygen mask, that's so important. Yes. So what are some of the things that you do on a, let's say, daily basis that are non-negotiables just to keep your mind right?
Well, it's going to sound funny, but I eat 3 meals no matter what, non-negotiably. So I have what I call non-negotiable self-care first. Non-negotiable self-care first. It's just a little saying that I picked up, and I've been swearing by it for years. And one of the things that I do is, okay, let me tell you about so every day I get exercise every day.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like I want to have a perfect body, you know, and da 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 da. It's not about that. It's about mental health and moving my blood so that my circulation is clear and I'm thinking better. And there's just so much positive things that work for you when you're getting any kind of exercise. So if I don't have time to go to the gym or go on the treadmill, I'll just walk around the block. And that's my exercise. So I do something for exercise every day. And it could be a walk around the block, and that's fine. It's just like my non-negotiable. I eat 3 meals a day because there was a time in my life when I get too busy to eat and I'd be starving at dinner time and I just totally binge. And then I'd feel horrible. And I think, why didn't I just eat? So now I eat 3 meals no matter what. What else do? I do my spiritual practice every day, which is prayer and meditation and checking in with some people that are sort of involved in my spiritual practice. And this week I have a mentor as well, obviously. And this week I made a commitment to her to do one nice thing every day, be of service to one person every day this week. And so I wake up and I texted her and I said, I'm praying to find the thing that I'm supposed to do for somebody nice today. And it's not like I'm trying to be a good person or anything. It's just like, I just want the benefits because I'm a feel-good junkie. I like to feel good, and exercise makes me feel good. Eating right makes me feel good. I'm not doing it because I'm a perfect person. I'm doing it because I want to feel good.
No, I love that. And, you're talking about the whole waiting for later and like, I'll do that when I'm done with this. But I had a business coach for a while and she said, you need to learn to manage your mind, because if you don't learn how to manage your mind, you're always going to be too busy. You're always never going to have enough time for this or that, or it's always going to be too hard. So you have to change your perception, because that's not changing, but the way you approach it needs to change. So I love that you brought that up, because a lot of people, including my parents were like that. They would say, well, when we retire, we'll do all this stuff. And I'm like, well, now there's COVID, so you can't go anywhere, can you?
Oh, that's awful. Yeah, I understand that though. I mean, I think it's really prominent in our culture to say, I'll be happy when.
Exactly.
I'll be happy when I get a good job, and then I have to get a better job, and then I'll be happy when I get good grades, and then I have to get into a good school, and then I have to get into a better school, and then I'll be happy when I meet my sales target, and then I have to get a better sales target, and then I have to push my sales target back. So we never reach happiness.
Exactly. It's the carrot. The carrot's always moving.
Which is actually, if you've ever listened to Sean Aker, he talks about happiness psychology, and he says it's broken and backwards, because your brain works so much better when you're happy. So if you can get happy, you'll be faster and smarter and work harder.
Yeah, that's true. I never even thought about that, but it is backwards, and we have a lot of things backwards, but I love that. Actually, this has to do with food, and I just, like, for whatever reason, it's coming through right now. So I need to ask you or have you talk about this. It's one, and I always mention this, and people always laugh about the comment that and it's stuck with me. I don't even know how, years ago I heard you say it, and it's the recreational sugar.
Oh yeah.
And
I made that up.
I mean, that is the best thing ever. And it makes so much sense to me, because I work with people who are typically trying to change their diet. And I hate that word diet, but change the way they eat. I would love for you to talk about what that is and why you decided that needed to be a term.
Well, we know what recreational drugs are, and we know that sugar is a drug, and we know that it floods the same part of your brain that cocaine gets to. So when your brain is getting high off sugar, it's the same piece that your brain would be getting high if you were doing cocaine. So we know sugar is a drug. We know it affects you that way. So I decided one day I was going to stop eating sugar. And I do this all the time. I stop eating sugar, and then I start again, and then I stop again, and then I start again. So it's not like I stopped drinking for 31 years. That was big difference. But I stop and start eating sugar all the time. And I said, I'm going to stop eating sugar. And my mentor said, well, are you going to eat fruit? And I said, no, I'm going to eat fruit. And she said, well, that has sugar in it. Are you going to eat rice? And I said, yeah. And she said, well, that turns to sugar. And I said, no, I'm going to only stop eating recreational sugar, like the good stuff, like ice cream and cake. I mean, you can look in your brain and see what recreational sugar represents to you, because nobody's ever ice cream deprived, or or ice cream lacking, or Reese's peanut butter cups lacking. Nobody ever is missing that in their system. So those are all recreational things. And when I do go off recreational sugar, the longest I've ever done it is 2.5 years. But sometimes I'll do it for like 90 days. And when I do that, I'll eat a lot of fruit. Like every time I get a sugar craving, I'll eat a lot of fruit, and then the cravings will go away. But if you decide to give up recreational sugar for a month or 30 days, don't be hard on yourself for 10 days, because 10-day detox from recreational sugar is so hard. I mean, you feel irritable and anxious, and you just don't think you're going to make it, and it's awful. And I mean, it's a drug. You're withdrawing.
Yeah, no, I love that you say that too, because people think it's too hard, or they think that it shouldn't be that hard, or there's all kinds of ways to talk yourself out of doing what's right for you.
Right.
But my philosophy is always, or not philosophy, but something that, if I've been able to get through to the other side, I'm like you, I'll quit my recreational sugar and then I'll go back to it. And then, but the thing is my taste buds change, and then I don't really want it.
For sure.
Yeah. So it's kind of cool after a while, if you could just get over that hump, then you can be just fine.
You can get through that 10 days, and I count the days and I mark a little red X on my calendar every day that I'm not eating sugar, because I know on that 10th day I'm going to get some relief. But isn't it funny when you're not eating recreational sugar and you eat like a strawberry, you're like, oh my gosh, that's so sweet.
I know. It tastes so good.
Or an apple is like so good.
So I've been eating mostly raw, because my spiritual mentor suggested that I do that for a period of time. And it's been interesting, I got to admit, but something that I learned through that whole process that helps too is to close my eyes when I'm eating anything with sugar. So whether it's an apple or a strawberry or a candy bar, if I close my eyes, I can really taste it, and then I don't want as much. So, there's ways to work through that. So it's kind of fun that,
I have all these little rules, and if you were inside my head, you would be lost. But I have this rule that I don't eat treats at work. I mean, you know about my work, and there's cake and donuts and cookies there almost every day. Almost every day somebody brings in homemade something, or I brought donuts for the whole staff, or it's somebody's birthday. Look, we brought a cake, and it's insane. So if I ate recreational sugar every time it was available to me, I would gain quite a bit of weight. So I decided I wasn't going to eat recreational sugar at work. I was not going to eat treats at work. That was going to be my rule. And if it was so good, I just wanted it so bad, I would wrap it up and take it home. And I've only done that twice, where I wrapped it up and took it home. And both times it was like all crumbly when I got home, and it didn't even look good anymore. But I wanted it so bad. So I said, okay, you can eat it at home. And it really helps me just be clear at work, that I don't have to be distracted by the recreational sugar that comes in and out of our building all day.
Yeah, no, I can attest to that. There is so much junk food. It's really good. And it's not, by the way, people who are watching, it's not cheap stuff either. It's like quality, or homemade, like you said.
Together, and we used to work together, and boy, wasn't it there a lot?
Oh my goodness. Like you said, just about every single day, there was always something, always. And especially around Christmas time, because that's when all the gift, baskets come in.
Right. So you can imagine me being here and feeling a little anxious about running the show and doing everything. And, if you write down what are my triggers from eating recreational sugar, they're almost always anxiety and boredom. I'm bored. I'm sitting on TV. I'm bored. I'm going to go get a bag of chips and watch TV. And then afterwards you go, why did I eat that bag of chips? I feel terrible. And it was sort of an unconscious move. It was like mindless eating. There's a great book, by the way, called Mindless Eating. And it talks about how we just pick something up without thinking about it and put it in our mouth.
Yeah. Yeah. I've been known to do that. Or, just the whole thing. I finally understood that when I started eating at my dining room table instead of in front of my TV, I ate so much more healthy, and also I was paying attention. So I actually was full when I was done with my food.
And the
But
food is better.
yes, it does. It tastes so much better. Yeah, it was weird though. And I've just really gotten into lately where doing one thing at a time. So I love that you were talking about how you have your schedule like that, because that way I can be focused on what I'm doing and I don't have to go back and redo it because I'm not trying to do something else at the same time. I'm fully there mentally, physically, emotionally. Yes, exactly. Exactly. So I know that this is probably going to be a long question, but that's okay. So with COVID, a lot of people have, the lifestyle has changed. And I know a lot of people were waiting for things to go back to normal. And it's like a year later and it's still not back to anywhere near how it was before, just being able to even go to restaurants is a bit of a challenge these days. So obviously a lot of addiction things come out during this time. And what have you seen to be like a major problem in general?
Well, you know that I work at New Method Wellness, which is a dual diagnosis wellness center, and we treat alcoholism and drug addiction and mental illness and from a holistic approach. And one of the things I've noticed on the intakes, I do a lot of intakes. So I'll talk to people and I'll say, what made you decide to come here and, change your life? And they often say, COVID had me drinking all day. It's socially acceptable now to start drinking at 10 in the morning. When it wasn't COVID, you kind of would get a little weird look if you were drinking at 10 in the morning. But now, because of COVID, people are just sitting around drinking all the time or smoking pot or doing something, or eating, binge eating. And so I've noticed that a lot more people are coming into treatment, into the wellness center, because they want to not sit in that cycle.
Yes.
The COVID's really created this cycle of just sitting inside and eating or sitting inside, and it's all out of boredom, and it's all out of lack of motivation. I mean, we really have to dig deep right now as individuals to continue to get exercise and eat right and all that stuff. That's so important to our mental health.
It is. I'm so glad you mentioned that because, it goes back to that waiting to be happy, waiting for, it's kind of
after COVID.
Yes, exactly. And, this is your life now. What happens if you were to die, say next week, would you be happy with how you spent today? And that's kind of how I've been starting to look at things. I shouldn't say that. I've actually thought that way for quite a long time, but because it's easier to just sit at home, I've definitely made that more of a priority in the way I choose how, my activities.
Well, I'm really good at setting myself up for success. I mean, I'm like inherently an incredibly lazy person, which I know doesn't make sense at all because of all the stuff you see me do, but inherently I am a very lazy person. And so I set myself up for success. Like, I think I told you this last time that one of the things I would do was go to sleep in my workout clothes.
Yeah.
It did not make me a sexy beast. Let me just say that. But when I woke up, it was a lot easier to get up and work out than it was. My shoes were next to the bed and I'm already in my workout clothes. So I did that until I didn't need to do it anymore. And then I could get up and get dressed and I could sleep in my pajamas and stuff. But I was setting myself up for sex. I'm always looking for routes to set myself up for the easier, softer way. Like if sleeping in my workout clothes is going to get me working out, I'll do it. Or I keep a pair of tennis shoes under my desk at work. And so some of the people that I work with will go walking at lunch. Oh. I don't go very often, but when I do, I love to. I've been stuck in the office all day and I go outside and I get sun on my face and I feel the air and, we're just walking and my blood circulating again. It's so nice.
No, I love that. And like you said, setting yourself up for success, because a lot of people make the assumption that because it's important to them, it'll automatically come naturally. And it doesn't 99% of the time. Yeah, you could be waiting forever if you're waiting to
Yes.
it just magically happens. So
like I said, inherently, I'm an incredibly lazy person. Like every single day of my life, I wake up and want to lay on the couch under a blanket and watch Netflix. Every day of my life, I have to say to myself, okay, you can do that tonight, but I think I talk to myself. My son said, Mom, why do you always talk to yourself? You're a psychologist. You sound like a crazy person.
That's so funny. You know what I had to do, because TV has been my nemesis. And so I would hide my remote control up really high. So yeah. And then that didn't work for a while. So I had to throw out the batteries.
Oh, that's so funny.
Yeah, but I mean, once I could handle it again, then it was fine. But for a while there, I needed to do what I needed to do, because I would do the same thing. I would just sit there and watch TV. And I was bored the entire time. So it wasn't like I was even getting anything from it. I was just surviving, just like borderline.
Yeah, just checking out.
Yeah, exactly. Just making it through the day. However, just surviving. And it's weird how often people, I mean, myself definitely included, do that instead of actually, picking those things that might be slightly uncomfortable in the beginning. But, I had this guest on, I think it was last week, and she said something that's really stuck with me. And she goes, well, which hard do you want to choose? Do you want to choose the hard of eating healthy, or do you want to choose the hard of illness? And I thought that was a brilliant way to put it, because which hard do you want to have? Do you want it to be that if you're going to choose to think of it that way, would you prefer to eat healthy, or would you prefer to be ill? And I just love that.
I used to listen to this motivational speaker named Zig Ziglar. He was I love him. He's from Oklahoma, and he said, you have to have a goal. He's so great. But one of the things he said was that he really wanted to be in shape. And so his doctor asked him to walk to the mailbox for a week and then call him. So he walked to the mailbox every day for a week, and then he called his doctor and he said, now walk around the block. And he just kept moving the point back until now he runs 5 miles a day.
I love that. Oh, okay.
We should all start by walking to the mailbox.
Exactly.
We overestimate what we can do in the short term, and we underestimate what we can do in the long term. Am I saying that right?
You did. Yeah, you did. You said that right. That's one of my favorite things. And it's so true. We do. I love that. We do have to go to commercial break. So we're going to end on that note, and we'll be right back. So now you've met Dr. DeAnna Jordan Crosby, if you haven't met her already. Isn't she amazing? I just love her wisdom and her kindness. And when we come back from the commercial break, we're going to talk a little bit about what she does with her work. But before we go as well, I always want to say hello to everybody who's watching live. Thank you so much for joining us. It's always a pleasure. And we'll be right back after this commercial break. Welcome back. I'm Julianne Meyer, host of Own Your Wellness, and our special guest today is Dr. DeAnna Jordan Crosby. And I'm not going to talk by myself, so let's bring her on. Welcome back.
Hi. I was watching your commercial and I was thinking, I love that it says you don't have to do it by yourself.
Exactly. And that is a perfect segue. Let's talk about New Method Wellness.
Yes. Oh my gosh. New Method Wellness is so dear to my heart. You know, I've worked at a lot of treatment centers and some of the best places in the country. And I just didn't feel like they treated the whole person, or their focus was on one thing whether it wasn't on whole spiritual, emotional, physical, mental health. And so I just love working here. You know, we have wolf therapy, which is just the newest, most exciting thing. And, you know, there's acupuncture and there's individual counseling and sand tray and just so much outside the box ways of healing. Like, we're open to any new idea that people want to bring to us. Like, you know, when we first introduced yoga 10 years ago, they said, you're going to have yoga? You're going to have your clients do yoga? And I said, yeah, I think it'd be really good for them because I think yoga is a really good practice for your mind, body, and spirit. And it worked out so well. And now it's a big part of our program and everyone loves it. I
can attest to that. Yes, everybody does love it. And wolf therapy. Wolf therapy is pretty awesome.
Really fun.
Anything at the beach. Yeah.
And the day at the beach, they do the volleyball and they love that too.
Well, you know, there's something I want to touch on about that is that a lot of people, families that are struggling with family members or loved ones in general that are in rehab, they don't understand that the person who's there, they'll look at it going, well, this is just a vacation. And
I want to go to New Method Wellness and lay on the beach all day.
Yeah. But, you know, people have to learn how to have fun sober too. And it's not just, I mean, there's a purpose for everything, absolutely everything, including making your bed in the morning. Because the clients are required to make their bed every morning. And it's just, you know, there's a lot more to it. And I was hoping that maybe you could touch on a little bit about how you support the families through the process.
Well, we work in conjunction with a lot of programs that help work with the family specifically. So what I do is I do a lot of family work. If I have a client come in and they say, I really have a lot of issues with my father. Mm-hmm. And we've been trying to get close and work through this stuff. And I think, well, you don't have to do it by yourself. Like you said, Julianne, you don't have to do it by yourself. So I say, let's set up a session with the three of us. And we always do the first session just establishing safety, like everybody's safe in the room. And we usually do it through Zoom because our patients and clients come from all over the country, all over the world. So we almost always do it from Zoom. And we'll just establish safety. And then in our second session, we do this thing called the 10, 10, and 10, and 10. It's where you say to the person 10 things you regret, 10 things you resent, 10 things you appreciate, and 10 things you want moving forward. And they just say things to each other that they might have never said in their whole life. I mean, I never got to say those 10 things to my parents. You know, and my dad is gone now. I mean, we had a good relationship when he passed, but I wish I could have said those 10, 10, and 10s. And then the third session, we just kind of process everything we've been through. And people leave here and they say, wow, I cannot believe how much easier it is to be with my family. I said some things I've wanted to say my whole life, and I never had the opportunity.
No, I love that. I love that. And then something else that, you know, I want you to touch on too is a lot of people are afraid to go to rehab now because of COVID. And, you know, but I mean, obviously you guys take extreme safety measures. So what would you say to somebody who's using that as an excuse not to go?
The key word is excuse. You know, going to rehab, even I haven't had a drink in 31 years, and I can recognize that going to rehab is a very scary thing to do. And so those excuses are going to come up. You know, we have ultimate safety precautions and cleansing and masks and 6 feet apart. And most of our staff is vaccinated now because we're healthcare workers, so we could get vaccinated. So That's really fabulous. So, you are taking a slight chance, and you're always taking a chance. I mean, you really have to stop and think. It's a very courageous thing to want to change your life, because going to rehab, quitting drinking, quitting drugs is not about quitting drinking or quitting drugs. Going to rehab is about changing your entire life. Like if you don't have a problem with drugs and alcohol, but you drink too much, let's say you're a drinker and you drink a lot of alcohol and you stop drinking because it feels not good for you, then you're fine. Your problem is solved. But if you're truly an alcoholic, you quit drinking, your life is not fine. The drinking was only a symptom. I say to families every day, I say, alcoholism doesn't cause problems in a family. It just exaggerates them. Those problems were already there, just little tiny baby ones hiding out in the dark. And now the alcoholism brought them all out. So the worst, in the old days, when I first started working in this industry about 21 years ago, treatment was like you bring somebody in for 28 days, they dry out, and then you go back out. And then they probably come back in a couple months and they dry out, and then they go back in. It was just kind of providing a container for them to stay sober for 30 days so that they could, be kind of dry for a while. But New Method Wellness is totally about helping you manage your life in every area and coping mechanisms. And a lot of treatment is turning in that direction now. More whole and more teaching you how to live, teaching you skills to make it through the day without a drink, because drinking is just it's just a poor coping mechanism.
It is, like you said, it's a coping mechanism. No, I love that. So there's something that used to drive me bananas when I would hear somebody say, I'm a grateful alcoholic. Now, of course, my perception of that has changed, but I would love for you to speak about what that means to you.
Well, interestingly, when I was in grad school, I wrote my thesis on how alcoholics are saving the world.
Oh, wow.
Just the title alone is enough to set anybody back. But the famous psychiatrist, Dr. Carl Jung, and he didn't like to be called Carl Jung, he liked to be called CJ. Yeah, I think that's like a little thing that you learn about all these little funny things when you go to grad school. But he said, they asked Carl Jung, they said, is humanity going to survive? And he said, only if it does its inside work.
Ooh.
When you're a recovering alcoholic, you have to do your inside work. It's not a choice. You're either going to do your inside, you're either going to go or grow. You're either going to go back out or you're going to grow through it, or you're going to go back to drinking or you're going to grow through it. So you go or grow. So you're doing your inside work because you don't have a choice. So we are, the recovering alcoholics on the planet they're the ones doing the inside work. And you probably have seen in your lifetime, when you take an alcoholic and you help them recover, it's endless, the possibilities. I mean, people get PhDs, they go to law school, they have fabulous families, they just do amazing things with their life. People that are living on the streets sleeping in a car, and then all of a sudden everything has changed.
No, I love that, because a lot of people don't realize too that your alcoholic or your addict are very intelligent typically. And to be able to pull that off for as long as they have takes a lot of skill. So
I read a study once, and it said that they were trying to figure out, the university was trying to figure out what alcoholics had in common, trying to kind of figure out what the common thread is. And the only thing they could find is that they had a 10% higher IQ than the average person. I thought that was interesting. And so people say to me all the time, I'm too smart to be an alcoholic. And I go, oh, way smarter people than you are alcoholics. It has nothing to do with smart. It is not picky. It doesn't only pick people that are not smart.
No, that's for sure. And there's something else I love to touch on too, because whether the person who's watching this, if they themselves have a problem with drugs or alcohol, or somebody that they love, there's certain people, or a lot of people, that just go rehab to rehab to rehab to rehab. And, as a family member, or even if it's you, people tend to give up hope on themselves. But my saying has always been, as long as you're breathing, there's hope. But I
Right.
would love you to talk about that a little bit, please.
I'm like you. I don't know what happened to my brain that I am a hopeless, forever optimist. I mean, I can watch people go out and not stay sober and just ruin their lives over and over and over. And somebody will walk through my door and I'm like, you have a chance. You can do it. And I don't know where I get that. I don't know if it's like denial or some Pollyanna attitude or what, but I just truly believe that every single person that walks through my door has, if you've been to 26 rehabs, maybe this is the one. Maybe 27 is the one that it worked for you. They say the average person has to go through rehab 7 times for it to work. So if 7 being the average, maybe it'll happen at 1, maybe it'll happen at 14, maybe somewhere between there. So if somebody comes to me and they come in and we do all this fabulous work and then they go out and relapse, I don't think of that as a failure. I think maybe I just planted a seed. This was only their 3rd rehab. Maybe they need to keep going. And it sounds like in the real world, I know it sounds really crazy that you would have hope for somebody who went to 7 rehabs, but I would completely have hope. I mean, there's always something you can do. Like you said, if you're breathing, there's hope.
That's the thing too, that's kind of interesting because in the line of work that you're in, obviously there's a lot of negative things that happen, but there's also those clients that come back, and even if they've used, like, you're in their ear, like you said, you planted that seed, and then they'll be like, oh, DeAnna said this. Oh, she's right.
How many people have come in and said, 10 years ago, you said, I talked to a woman yesterday and she said that 6 years ago, I said, have you ever thought about being a therapist? And she said, no. And I said, you're really good at this, and you're a really good listener and you have a lot of insight. You might want to think. And she had a master's degree in business and she was working as an accountant, or not an accountant, I'm sorry. She was working as a money manager or something. And she was making a ton of money and, hated her job. So I said to her, have you ever thought about, well, I didn't hear from her for a long time. She called me yesterday and said she went back to school and got her master's degree in marriage and family therapist. She got her hours. She sat for her license, passed her. Now she's a licensed marriage and family therapist.
I love that.
She's been sober the whole 6 years and her life is, just seeing her, we did a little Zoom chat and just seeing her, she just looked radiant, beautiful. I said, I feel like you've youthed since I've seen you. You look so much younger. And she said, oh, it's just like preserving me, living this lifestyle.
I love that because that's part of the premise of this show is to own your wellness. And wellness to me is more than just what you put in your mouth and how you move your body. Yes, those are huge components and huge important things. But if you hate your job or if you're in a super unhealthy relationship or something along those lines, you're not healthy. And people tend to compartmentalize, but it's your body's like a kiddie pool, like everything, if you put something in, it affects everything. It's not just like this part and yeah. So what do you think about that? How do you feel about that idea?
I agree with you 100%. Every single thing we do and say and think, and words are so powerful. If you are saying to yourself all the time, I used to do this thing where I would like eat something that for a long time, I had this concept of good food and bad food. And I would only try to eat good food and then I'd slip up and eat bad food and I'd hate myself and I'd say, oh, you're such a fat pig. How could you eat that? But I would literally say those words to myself, which is like, if you said that to me, one of my friends said that to me, I would never speak to you again.
Exactly.
But I would say that all the time. I would say like, I can't believe what a fat pig you are, or just these horrible things. And when I finally learned how important words were, I started saying things to myself like, it's okay that you ate that. Maybe you won't eat it tomorrow. Maybe you will. But just do the best you can right now. And it was such a kinder and gentler approach that it really changed the words. Have you ever seen that experiment where they say nice words to one plant and evil words to another plant? And the plant they say mean words to dies.
Yeah.
And the nice word plant is flourishing and beautiful and fabulous. And I think there's got to be something to that. There's so much we don't know. But I think we know well enough that if we say things that aren't kind to ourselves, we're not going to function well.
No, and also you attract that. So it's kind of like, I don't know. To me,
Yeah.
I also thought about it like this. if beating myself up and being mean to myself worked, I would have a perfect body. I'd be a multimillionaire, like I'd have everything if that worked. Obviously, it doesn't. So why not be kind and enjoy it? Because like you said, I would never let somebody else talk to me the way I used to talk to myself. Not ever. And the way we allow it with ourselves is kind of crazy. And even still, like, I've done a lot of work on myself. And even to this day, there's, I'll catch little tiny thoughts. And they're sneaky because it doesn't seem at front, like up front that it is. Yeah, I'm like, whoa, wait a second. That was kind of backhanded.
Right.
So, yeah, and it's a journey. And if you can make it into a game, it becomes so much more fun instead of just, like turning it into like, oh, I failed at that again.
Yeah. Like, I wonder what I'm going to learn.
Yeah.
Instead of, oh, you're such a piece of junk. How could you do that? What a waste you are. And all those horrible things. I say to parents all the time, be careful what you say to your children because it will become the voice in their head. So I really tried when I was raising my children to not, I can't believe you blew that. What? You got to see? Oh my gosh. Would you try, and just try to say things to them like, it looks like you tried really hard. Another thing I say about raising children, it's so important to praise them for their effort instead of their intelligence. Because I kind of made the mistake with my boys, especially, that they were highly intelligent. So I was always like, you're so smart. Homework's not hard for you. Gosh, you're so smart. And I really praised them a lot. But they got a little lazy about halfway through. I was praising them for being so smart. And somebody suggested to me, why don't you start praising them for their effort instead of their intelligence? So when I'd see them doing their homework, instead of saying you got an A, I'd say, wow, you worked really hard on that paper. And it changed everything for them.
I love that too, because then it's more about the journey as well instead of the outcome. And if it doesn't turn out the way that you would hope, at least you tried. So
yeah, and you put effort into it. You're going to feel good about yourself for putting effort into it. If you didn't put effort into it and you got an A, you might feel medium about yourself. If you didn't put effort into it, you got a C, you're still going to feel good about yourself because you did put a lot of effort into it.
Exactly. No, I love that. And it's about the effort. It's not about, I love that. I've never heard that before, but it makes so much sense to me.
Yeah. And I made a mistake. My kids are exceptionally smart. I know everybody thinks that, but they really are.
They are.
They are. And I would just go on and say, you're so smart. You're so smart. And it never occurred to me until they got a little older. It wasn't serving them.
Yeah. I never thought about that. And then also when they become that identity, it's kind of, then it's maybe they won't take on other projects because they're not going to be perfect at it. So
it's called the gifted child syndrome. And it's when children are gifted and they're praised for how smart they are, they don't learn to put in any effort. And then they kind of fall off the, platform around college level because everybody's so smart now. You're working with the cream of the crop.
That's true. I love that. So what other advice would you give about raising children? Because I happen to know your kids and they are phenomenal human beings.
Oh, they're so sweet. They're so funny. They crack me up. They're all so different.
They are. They're all so different.
So different. It just blows me away that they could be so much. But I like that about them. I've also heard that if your children turned out different than you expected them to, consider that a compliment. Because it means you didn't put your stuff on them. So like, I always wanted to be a ballerina when I was a little girl. And so I never tried to get one of my kids to be a ballerina. But if I had spent my whole life trying to I just kind of did what they did. Like if they said, I want to play pickleball, I learned how to play pickleball. Instead of saying, you don't want to play pickleball, you want to do ballet. And so they turned out exactly what they wanted. Of course, I made them trials of the sports and stuff. If I could say anything about raising children, in my personal experience, the most important thing you can do is listen to your gut. I spent so much time as a young mom, like listening to other people. And like, I wanted and there's so much controversy about this. I won't even get into that, but I really wanted my kids to sleep with me when they were babies. And there's like tons of controversy that they should never sleep in your bed. And there's tons of people, doctors and research that says they should sleep with you until they're 2. And I just wanted them to. And I had so many people tell me, you're doing them a disservice. They'll never learn how to sleep, and they'll be 19 years old. You'll be rocking them and all this crazy stuff. And so I tried to not let them sleep with me. And it was really a disservice to both of us because it's what we wanted.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I had just listened to my gut on every single thing. You know, people would tell me, and many times people would tell me, you should do this with your children. And then 10 years later, they go, wow, wasn't that a mistake that I told you that? And I thought, why did I listen to my gut? So if you're a parent, you have intuitive knowledge and intuitive connection to that child. You should pay attention to that more than anything else.
I love that. Something that I've been recently thinking a lot about is how we give away our power to everybody else, you know, like the doctor knows best, yet you're in your body, so you have a say, you know, or yeah, instead of like, yeah, we're always looking outwards for the answers, but if you can quiet your mind a little bit, you do have those answers. It's
You can
pretty
only
amazing.
read so many self-help books.
Yes,
I
exactly.
start saying the same thing. You know, I say to my clients, they'll say to me, DeAnna, what should I do? Should I get a divorce? And I go, how would I know if you should get a divorce? Get a divorce? Do you think you should get a divorce? I mean, I'm willing to process it with you and talk about the pros and the cons, but there's no way I would tell anybody to get a divorce. It's just, it's ridiculous to me that, or anybody would even listen to me telling them what to do. But, you know, as a therapist, you hold a lot of power. People just say, oh, you told me to do this, I'll do it. And I always go, wait. What you know, when I make a treatment plan for a new client, I always do it with them.
Yeah.
And I don't say, these are your goals. Your goals are, you're going to do this, this, and this. I say, what are your goals? And they'll say, my goals are, I want to do this. And I go, okay, let's write it down. Let's talk about your goals.
Yeah.
And we do it together because most people already know inside of them what is in their best interest.
I love that. And you don't have to go to rehab to write down your goals.
No, just write them down right now.
We are almost out of time. We have about 3 minutes left. I'm just curious what I know it goes so quickly, right?
Yes.
What would you love to share with the audience? Any last thoughts? Would you like to reiterate?
If I would like to tell your audience anything, I would like to say, do one thing every day this week that's nice to yourself. Dr. Pat Allen was my mentor for about 10 years, and she said to me, do one nice thing for yourself every day. And I thought, I never do anything at that point in my life. I never did anything. And I started practicing it, and it became a habit. And now I try to find one nice thing just for DeAnna.
I love that. Something though that I want to touch on is when you're saying one nice thing, I know a lot of people are thinking things like, oh, then that means I get to have that glass of wine that I wasn't going to drink, or that means I get to have, you know, that extra candy bar that I wasn't going to eat. What do you mean when you say do something nice?
If that extra candy bar is what's going to feed your soul, eat it. If that glass of wine is what's going to feed your soul and you don't have a drinking problem, drink it.
I love that.
And eventually you'll start doing nicer things that are more in line with your inherent wellness.
Mm-hmm.
So you might have a glass of wine now, but I'm guessing in a few months, if you keep up this practice of one nice thing for yourself every day, what you'll do is the wine won't be as exciting anymore. And, you know, like I said, there's no good foods or bad foods. I just don't believe in that anymore.
No, I love that too, because that's important. And I love that, you know, you are saying it in that way, because if that is what feeds your soul, then you should do that.
Yes. Yes.
Because, you know, for example, I can't even think of anything really negative, but it wouldn't feed my soul. So why would I do it?
Right. I'm not going to feed my soul to jaywalk.
Yeah.
That's not going to feed my soul. And if I really want to jaywalk, I should find out why I do. But
Exactly.
it's not going to feed my soul. So maybe, like, if I stop and just take a minute to mindfully think what's going to feel really good to DeAnna right now, it might be take a bath. And then my head will say, DeAnna, you don't have time to take a bath. You have to make dinner for your family and blah, 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 blah. And I always say to that voice, I don't need you right now.
Mm-hmm.
You can just go rest. I'm just going to take a bath and everything will work itself out.
Oh, I love that. Well, DeAnna, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been such a pleasure, as always.
It was so fun. I could talk to you every week.
I love you too. This is so much. Yeah. Cause I mean, it's just the banter is fun, right?
Yeah, it's really good. Yeah.
Plus we're helping people. So even better.
So yeah, anything I can do to, pass on my experience, strength, and help, I'm all about it.
Awesome. Well, thank you again for joining, and we'll see you next time.
Definitely. Thanks.
So, in case there it is, New Method Wellness. If you want to reach out, you can definitely do that. I highly recommend it. And I just want to say thank you to DeAnna for being here today. Always a pleasure to speak with her. I enjoy her insight, her wisdom, and just how kind she is to everyone. So, anyway, until next week, we will see you then.